Hey everyone, it's Mary. I'm just gonna check for a second and make sure I'm all straight because I did a live yesterday in my other group and I was sideways. And it appeared to me that I was straight. So just checking. So if you're logging on, let me know if everything's okay. It appears to be from my laptop. So thank you for joining me today. I'll tell you, just when you think everything's straightening out in life, you know, last week I was sick. I don't know. You ever have one of those days where you wake up in the morning and you think everything's going to be okay, and then something happens and you spiral and you find yourself on the couch, curled up in a ball, under the covers, watching TV and crying. Well, that's the day I've had. So we almost didn't have class because I couldn't get myself out of this depression I was in. A friend of mine suffered a loss and it was really close to home and reminded me of one of my recent losses, and the whole thing just spiraled. And you know when a friend is suffering so deeply that you can actually feel their pain, that's what happened to me today. So we almost didn't have class, and then about half an hour ago I said, well, you know, I really should do the class. Suck it up, Buttercup. And all of a sudden I was struck with inspiration. So today's card isn't what I intended, but it's going to be kind of from the heart, and it became color therapy. So by sitting down and creating the template for today's card, I kind of got myself out of the funk. Thanks, Kathy. If you've been following me on my other page, my Creatively Organized page, which is basically for my 31 business, but also just for my craft room organization, I did an event this past Saturday for a fundraiser for rescues, for animal rescue, dogs and cats and whatnot. And we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of losing our rescue dog, Lucy, who, if you're on my personal page, she's my profile picture. So we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of losing Lucy. It's in about 3 weeks, and it's been really hard. You know, there are some that will say, well, it's, you know, it's just a dog, get over it, move on, whatever. But people who have been in my shoes, they'll understand that, you know, it's more than just a dog to those of us that have dogs. But so I did this event on Saturday for animal rescue. I represented 31 gifts at the it was an Adopt-A-Palooza. It was really cool because I got to see a bunch of dogs get adopted. So that was awesome. And love on some dogs that weren't adopted. So that was equally as awesome. And if you're on my Creatively Organized page, you'll know that I'm doing a 31 party for the Adopt-A-Palooza to benefit the rescues that were at Adopt-A-Palooza. And that's my way of kind of giving back for my Lucy. So today with my friend, and then remembering my Lucy, and then having all this other stuff going on, it kind of spiraled into this, you know, really bad downhill decline. But I colored my way out of it. So bear with me today. You know, last week I was sick. This week I'm an emotional mess. So bear with me. It'll get better. But those of you, you know, we're all here because we're stampers or we're paper crafters. And sometimes when you get into that funk, sometimes just I find coloring just in itself is therapeutic. Like just sitting down with my markers 20 minutes before coming up with this class, it was such great therapy. Oh, thanks, Christina. I appreciate it. I'm a hot mess. But, you know, just sitting down with my markers and coloring, it just changed something. And that's why I decided to go ahead with the class. And you guys would understand if I was a blubbering idiot, because it happens sometimes. And if coloring can get you, something as simple as picking up your markers and coloring can get you out of a funk, you know, whether it's because you're mourning a loss, or you just don't feel good, or someone has made you feel bad, or someone's upset you, or whatever, share it. And sit down and do your color therapy, and then show your creation and share it with your friends, because you just never know if somebody else out there is suffering too, not maybe the same, you know, loss or illness or whatever that you're suffering, but could use a pick-me-up. And I was just really surprised by how much sitting down and coloring helped me today. And now sharing with you will be, you know, more therapy, and I can pass it on to you. So today's card was, as I said, not what I intended to do today, but I think I'm going to be equally as happy with it. I kind of hatched the idea and did a rough draft. I didn't complete the card, so I don't like have a sample to show you of what we're going to do today. But, we're just going to get there together. So if you're tuning in, as part of my Live at 5 series, I always have a free gift with purchase. So if you make any purchases in my online store using my unique hostess code, I always send out a free gift with purchase and a free card tutorial. This month, I'm sharing a Share What You Love card kit. And that consists of some of my Love It, Chop It series of designer series papers and card bases. So you'll receive enough to make, I think it's 6 cards. I don't know. I keep saying 4 or 6, and I mail 6. 6 cards. So you'll get 6 different assorted designer series papers. And those are from the Share What You Love suite. And you'll also receive 6 coordinating card bases, okay? And these are all the different colors of cards that coordinate with our current Share What You Love suite of products that are currently available in my online store. And if you join my Hostess Club, the May code is down here. It's a 6-month enrollment. It costs $30 a month to be enrolled in my club. And with $50 or more each month, you qualify for additional free gifts. So there's an added benefit to being in my club. Also, at the end of 6 months, you're the hostess, and you'll receive guaranteed a minimum of $25 in free product from any current catalog for being the hostess that month. So today we're going to be playing some more with the Share What You Love suite. If you attended class on last Thursday, we made the dragonfly cards. This was another card using my Love It, Chop It formula. And I have a new Love It, Chop It club that's going to be starting in June. So if you're interested in more information on my Love It, Chop It club, just post below in the comments, and I'll be sure to include you in the announcement emails that go out. But this was a card that we made on Thursday. So if you're new to my Live at 5 card classes, this is a sample of some of the projects that we do during my classes. So this was Thursday's class. And if you remember, we took a piece of the designer series paper that we had loved and chopped from the Share What You Love suite. Whoop, and I dropped it on the floor. Hold on. I gotta fish it out from under the table. So we had cut one of the designer series papers. Ah! Now I got it hung up in a dragonfly. Get out of there. So we had cut 2 dragonflies from this piece of designer series paper. One I had used on the sample, and the other we used in the card that we created during the class. So we had this leftover piece. And if you remember from Thursday, I promised you that we were going to make a card using this piece of designer series paper. So that's what today's class is going to consist of. We're going to use this piece of cardstock here, or the designer series paper. We're also going to use some of our markers, and we're going to do our color therapy. And I also have a watercolor pen here because I can't find my Stampin' blends. And I can't find my, oh my gosh, I can't even think of the name of it now. Blender pens. The blender pens, I can't find the blender pens. So we're gonna have to use this, and we're gonna have to just not use a lot of water, because my room's a mess, which you'll know if you've been following my creatively organized page or group. You'll know the state of my room. It's a disaster. So if you have the Share What You Love specialty designer series paper, or are interested in purchasing it either through my free gifts with purchase hostess code or my hostess club, on the back of the designer series paper, it shares all the colors that coordinate with the paper. So we have our basic black, blackberry bliss, crumb cake, the new grapefruit grove, mint macaron, which is a returning in color from years past, mossy meadow, which was a retired in color as well, old olive, pear pizzazz, petal pink, which is a new color, which I don't have yet, rich razzleberry, so saffron, tranquil tide, which is a current in color, and whisper white. So all of those colors are found within these designer series papers. So you know that if you have those cardstocks or those inks, they're going to coordinate perfectly with our DSP. So for today, we're going to be creating a card, and it's using the Hanging Garden stamp set. Now you can find that currently in our occasions catalog. All right, so this is the occasions. Oh, that's my template. No peekies. This is the current occasions catalog. So this is wrapping up at the end of May. It's gone. And there's a retiring list posted on my website. I've been sending it out to folks, so you should be kind of up to date on that. The Hanging Garden stamp set can be found on page 30. It's a red rubber stamp set, so it's available in the wood or in the clear mount cling. And we're going to be using the clear mount today because I'm actually using my Stamparatus because I didn't trust myself to do any stamping, real stamping, you know, eyeball stamping. So I'm going to be using the Stamparatus that's coming out in our June catalog, in our June release of the annual catalog. And it's also going to, this stamp set, the Hanging Garden, is actually carrying over, so that's really cool. And I thought there was something else I had flagged to show you in here, but I guess not. I guess it was just in reference to the Hanging Garden. So we're going to be pairing the Hanging Garden stamp set today with this designer series paper. So I have that. And then I pulled out some markers, and they basically fit my mood, and they fit the colors that I pulled from the designer series paper. So I'm going to be coloring today with the Blackberry Bliss marker. Now this is a returning in color. So if you don't have this, it will be in the new catalog as part of the new color collection. So you will be able to pick up one of these markers. So don't fear if you don't have it. I'm going to be using today the powder pink, which is a current in color, since I don't have the new one. We're also going to be using So Saffron, and we're going to use the Pear Pizzazz, and we're going to use the Crumb Cake. Those are all current colors that were pulled from the list of colors on the back of the DSP. We're also going to be coloring with Mint Macaron. Now, Mint Macaron is a returning ink color. So if you haven't been with Stampin' Up! Long and you do not have this color, it is being released in June, and you will be able to purchase this in the markers and in the ink pad, the re-inkers, the cardstock, the whole 9 yards. So just because I'm using it today and you don't necessarily own it today, you will be able to get it. I'm also going to be bringing in Sahara Sand. Now this is not listed in the designer series paper color code, so to speak, on the back of it, but it's a neutral enough color that I felt comfortable bringing it in. So those are our markers. I'm going to be stamping today with Early Espresso. I almost used black, but I figured my mood was black enough, people. Let's not get it too dark. So I'm going to be using the Early Espresso. I just have to be careful when I'm going to be coloring with watercolor because I don't want to bleed that Early Espresso. So I'm going to have to use a light hand. And I'm also bringing in my Grapefruit Grove ink pad. Now this is a new in color. Okay, and it's part of the Share What You Love bundle that's currently available in my online store. I do not currently own the marker. It's on its way. I placed this big order the other day that I didn't intend to place, but I placed another big order. It's on its way. Hopefully I'll have it next week, but I'm gonna have to use the ink pad, and I'll do the old squishy, get the ink on the lid as much as you can technique. And then I'm just going to use my aqua painter to pick up that ink since I can't find the blender pens. I'm going to use this. So those of you that are saying, use the blender pen to pick up the ink, I can't find it. So I'm going to use the aqua painter. And I'm just have some adhesives. I have my soon to retire fast fuse. I think it's even already gone. And some Tombow liquid glue, and then my go-to dimensionals. So let's get to some stamping now that you know what the supplies are. So I'm going to bring in my supplies. So I have my stamps, all right, and I've already mounted them on my Stamparatus. So if you're not familiar with the Stamparatus, it is a new tool coming out from Stampin' Up. There were some pre-order periods back in, I think, December and January-ish, where you could not really pre-order, but pre-reserve, and it was so hot that they kept selling out, and it was like crazy, maniac. And this is going to be in our new annual catalog, so you will be able to order this come June 1st, all right, in my online store. That's the Stamparatus. So we're going to play with that today. And I have my piece of designer series paper. If you're following my Love It, Chop It, this piece that we had cut up is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I have a standard card base. All right, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm doing it scored more vertically, so you could also have it open this way. I'm going to have it go this way. So we have that. That's going to be a base. And then even though the designer series paper listed Whisper White, I wanted to tone it down. So I'm using a piece of Very Vanilla, and I cut it at 3 3/4 by 5. So that I could have a little bit of that designer series paper showing from underneath. But I also wanted to hide the fact that I had chopped out those dragonflies. But this is such pretty paper with that pearlized flower motif that, you know, we're not going to just cover that. Heck no. So we cut out our dragonflies from it, and now we can just cover the holes, right? Hey, this is really pretty paper. I'm not wasting it. All right, so I'm going to try to do this without having you watch the back of my head, because that would just be nasty after a day curled up on the couch. who wants to see the back of my messy old head? And I'm also going to plug you in. So I'm going to shake you for just a second, because as everybody knows, I have a habit of running out of battery, and I forgot to plug you in before I started. And those of you that tuned in, I think it was to my Creatively Organized page when I had this total battery disaster, and I tried to prop the phone up on a windowsill, and as soon as I did and I said, oh, you guys are propped up on the windowsill, you're plugged in, this is awesome, the phone fell over and flopped. Oh, that was just bad. That was bad. So you're plugged in, we're good to go. So I have my Stamparatus. So here's my little Stamparatus guy, and I don't need the second hinge, so I'm just going to pull that out of there because I don't need it. So I've already lined up 2 of my hanging baskets and my hang in there. All right, because this card is as much for me as it is for my friend. We need to hang in there. So that sparked today's card is my message. Just hang in there. It may totally stink today, but tomorrow could be a little bit better, and the day after that could be even a little bit better than that. So I have everything lined up. Now, I don't know if you can see it, and maybe if I use, excuse my reach, maybe if I use this foam pad that comes with the Stamparatus, you can see. If you're not familiar with the Stamparatus, and I think, oh, there's the light bulb. You can see the light bulb. There's grid marks etched into the Stamparatus plate, okay? So this is just a piece of scrap paper, but there's also grid marks in the base of the Stamparatus. I just put some scrap paper there that I cut just to protect it, and from archival inks. So there are grid marks. So basically all I did is line up the hanging rope from the baskets along one of those grid marks. And then I eyeballed the hang in there, and I tried to make it straight with the grid marks that are etched into the cover. So that's all set up the way that I want it. So all I have to do now is remember, and I probably should have drawn pencil lines, but you know, not always the smartest bulb in the socket, as I like to say. I probably should have made some pencil marks as to where I was going to want my piece of Very Vanilla, but you know, why do that when you can mess around with it live, right? So I have one of my magnets. I didn't use it when I made my template, but I'll use it today because it's there and you should see it. So I basically just want to line up my piece of Very Vanilla approximately where I want my baskets to be hanging on my paper. And if I look at my cheat sheet, I think I was over one more hash mark. And that looks about good. I'm looking at my little cheat sheet. So I'm just going to line this up to the grid marks, and then I'm going to take my magnet and I'll put it down where it's not going to interfere. All right, with me so far? All right. So I'm going to pull in now my early espresso ink. Now, the thing I've seen some people struggling with is the fact that this hinge, when you take your plate and you open it up, it's not flat all the way across. So they were having trouble inking up the images with the plate not resting flat on the table, which you could just remove it and ink it and then put it in. But if I do that today, I can guarantee you I'm going to stick my fingers in it. It's going to become a mess. It's going to get real bad real fast. So somewhere around here, I just put down the ink pad, the stamp set. So I'm just going to take the stamp set that I just used, and I'm going to lay it under that hinge, and they're about the same depth as the Stamparatus, so it's going to hold up this plate. But like I said, you could just lay the plate on the table, not in the Stamparatus itself, and ink it up. I'm just afraid I'm going to make a big disaster trying to put it back in, because I already got my thumb in an ink pad, and that was messy too. And the other thing that I like about the Stamparatus is when you stamp, you don't rock, or you don't have the tendency to rock like you do when you're using a standard block. But I still like to come in with my Q-tip and clean off some of those edges, because you just never know. I don't think I'm gonna rock because I'm using the Stamparatus, but why take a chance? And I kind of made a mess putting this ink on, but excuse me. I did find that with the Stamparatus, you had a heck of a lot less risk of rocking than you did with a block. All right, I gotta take a sip. I'm Drake, I can feel my throat getting all dried out. Okay, so I've got that inked up, and I'm hoping that there's enough ink on that image, because you know me, I'm blind as a bat and can't see either. So I'm gonna bring this over, push it down, and again, because I'm using the Stamparatus, I can't rock. And open it up. Oh, I got a pretty good image there. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Now, what I love about the Stamparatus too, if you're not familiar with it, is you can, see I got some leaves here that aren't exactly as dark as the others. You can flip it back, and now my leaves that were slightly lighter than the rest, and I could have just left them, are now just as dark as the rest, because all I did is close it and push down on that one section that it didn't get enough oomph the first time, and it's perfect. There's no halos. You know, with the Stampin' Jig, if you were off just a teeny tiny little bit, all of a sudden it's doubled. You don't get that with the Stamparatus. And the other day, actually, if you excuse my reach, the other day I stamped this because I was going to color it. This is with Archival Black, and this is a really hard, sorry, I had my glasses in my mouth. This is a really hard stamp set to get really crisp images, black images out of. I think I stamped this piece of cardstock, this exact piece with this exact hello, 5 times. No lie. I re-inked and I stamped, and there were still some faded out areas in the lettering. Re-inked, stamped again. Still not happy with it. Re-inked, stamped again. I swear there's 5 layers of ink on this. But if you look, hey Stacy, check it out. It's there. There is. Stacy's saying put a stamp case under the plate. It's there, dude. It's right there. So I swear this hello, I re-stamped this 5 times, and it's absolutely perfect. There's not a single halo. There's not a single smudge. There's nothing. It's absolutely perfect. Perfect. So, you know, there's that. Because with the Stampin' Jig, if you didn't get it absolutely perfect, you were going to have halos all over the place. All right, so this has sat here long enough. Let's pull this out. So I'm just going to remove my magnet. I'm going to remove my piece. I'm just going to leave these guys there. They can just stay on there. And the next thing I do is I always put my magnet right back where it came from, because I think if you've been following the Stamparatus saga, you know that these magnets are super duper duper strong, and if you get them anywhere near each other, they shatter. And they can shatter into really sharp fragments. Things can fly, it can get really ugly. So I actually am only using one magnet at a time. And you don't even need 2 magnets. 1 magnet at a time is perfectly enough. I don't think there would be an instance when you would have to have 2. So I've just been using 1 at a time, and I haven't wrapped them. As you could see, I didn't wrap mine in washi tape or duct tape or paper or anything. I just left them as they were, and I used 1 at a time. All right, so now I have my image, and I have my designer series paper, I have my card base, I have my inks, and we're gonna color. And this is where it gets a little boring for you. And very therapeutic for me, because I can talk to you and do my coloring at the same time and kind of get myself out of my funk. And I can't see your comments now. So I can't answer anything because I'm now below the camera. So if you have any comments or questions or anything, I will have to answer those after. All right? But if you get bored, you can always go shopping. Just get a screenshot of the hostess codes and go shopping. So I'm gonna start with the crumb cake. And I like to color with the fat tip. I don't know why, it's just what I like to do. And I'm gonna use the crumb cake, and I'm just gonna color in the baskets on what I would assume is like the wicker part. And actually my husband and I'm looking for my glasses. Where did I put them? They're not gonna help me, so I don't even know why I'm bothering. My husband and I went to Home Depot earlier last week, and we have a raised beach plantation style home here in South Carolina, and I almost bought hanging ferns, which you always see in on the plantation homes. And they had these really cool, they were like a wrought iron scroll work basket with the not like a fern insert, but I mean fern insert. Oh, what am I saying? Like mossy type insert. And they were really cool. And I wanted them so badly, but they, one of them looked really sad, and I wasn't sure I could bring it back to life because my thumb isn't exactly green. So I left them and I didn't get them. So I'm gonna have to go back to Home Depot and see if they have any more. We got rocking chairs for our front porches. My husband finally power washed the front porches. We have upper and lower front porches, and he finally got them power washed for me. And then I made the poor guy go find me 4 black rocking chairs for the front porch. And the poor guy, we had to stop twice on the way home because they were falling over in the truck, and we were afraid they were gonna fall out on the highway. But we got them home, so I can now rock on my front porch. So I colored in what I envisioned to be like the mossy base of the hanging basket with the Sahara sand. So that's where I brought that in. I didn't want to keep using the crumb cake because it would just be the same color. So I brought in the Sahara sand just to tone it down a little bit. And then I'm going to use the So Saffron. And while I was coloring, I discovered that some of these flowers in this larger basket are daffodils. And I love me some daffodils. I was so sad when this spring, I thought, well, maybe the previous owners had planted some flowers and they were gonna suddenly be popping up everywhere and surprise me. And I got nothing. So I went to our old house that we put on the market, and I dug up my lilies and brought them to the new house, but I didn't have daffodils at the old house, so I'm gonna have to buy some. When I went to Home Depot, they didn't have any. I think it was too late. Daffodils are like a March plant that you buy down here. Not like when I was up in Massachusetts. Daffodils are probably out on the shelves now. So I colored in what would be the petals of the daffodils with the So Saffron. Now I could bring in something brighter, but I'm trying to really stick to the colors that were in the DSP. And I think it'll look pretty enough. The So Saffron will be fine. And that's when I decided to bring in the Grapefruit Grove, because I'm gonna color the centers of the daffodils with the Grapefruit Grove. But next, I'm gonna bring in the Mint Macaron. And where I'm gonna use that is on the succulents that are in this planter right here. Now, I've never owned a succulent. Don't know nothing about succulents, but I know the word and I know what they look like. And to me, Mint Macaron is a good succulent color. So that's what we're doing today. We're gonna color the succulents with Mint Macaron. And then I'm going to get my Pear Pizzazz, and I'm gonna peek up here at the comments, make sure you guys aren't saying that I'm doing something totally crazy or that you've all left and I'm by myself. So I've got my Pear Pizzazz, and we've got some leafy plant back here. I'm not even gonna pretend to name it because I can't tell you what it is, so why bother? And I can't see, oh my God. If you've been following me, no, I have not gone and figured out where to buy any bifocals yet. So I'm still blind as a bat. So I'm gonna color in these little teeny tiny leaves on this basket, and I am a stay between the lines kind of girl. I cannot stand when I go outside the lines. I've been that way since a kid with coloring books. But when you're blind as a bat and can't see a thing, you tend to go outside the lines. And you know what? To some people, that is creativity, and it's okay. So I kind of have to really release, as I'm going to say, release my inner anal. I got to kiss that anal goodbye because, you know, it doesn't really have any place right here with my coloring. So I've colored the leafy parts with the Pear Pizzazz. So where I don't know what this is supposed to be here, I thought it would be cool if I came in with my Mint Macaron and kind of just added a little extra color. So it's not it's not all Mint Macaron, and actually the Mint Macaron, I don't know if you can see that, the Mint Macaron on top of the pear, it just it darkens it up a little, but it's a totally different color now than this Mint Macaron. So the Mint Macaron layered on the pear created a whole new color, but nothing too gross. So I thought that was cool. All right, so we got that. And then we're gonna go back to our other basket, and I've got my pear again, and I'm just gonna color these leaves. And I'm sorry, I know how boring coloring is to watch. But I don't know, maybe if my mouth keeps going, you won't leave me. All right, there's a little leaf hiding there. Okay, so I got my leaf there, and then we have these little leaves here. And we're just gonna put a little bit of color on them. Little bits. So I don't know where you are. Let's talk about the weather. You guys can comment for each other. So here in South Carolina, it's a weird day. It's been really sunny all day, But then all of a sudden it got really dark and rain started pounding on my craft room windows. And I thought, oh, you know, maybe I'm going to lose power and I'm not going to be able to do class anyway. And then my sister texted me and she was showing me pictures from her work windows up in Massachusetts. And they were actually under a tornado warning. So I thought that was really weird because we don't get a lot of tornado warnings in Massachusetts. But she was under a tornado warning, so that was different. So I've now got this Blackberry Bliss. Now this is really dark and it kind of takes the character away from the flowers, but I really wanted to use it because I love it. So on my sample that I made for myself, I kind of colored the flower in really kind of dark. But I'm going to use this and I'm just going to kind of lightly touch. And I'm going to use some Very Vanilla Showing. So it's not completely colored. Almost kind of like a, you know, watercolor look. And anyone who's screaming at me, you missed a leaf. I found it. It's right there. I found the leaf. I saw it. It's kind of like Where's Waldo? Where's the leaf? All right. And now for the final, I'm going to bring in my powder pink because I don't have that new pink. But powder pink will do. Let's show that some love too. And then this little teeny spray of flowers that's in this basket as kind of a filler. Ha, see, I know the word filler. Filler flowers, I know what that means. We're going to fill in with this pink. All right. All right. So all that's left now is our daffodils, and I just saved that for last because it was using an ink pad. So these are the new style of ink pad, and I wasn't having any problems opening them until today. But mine is brand new. Hold on. Mine is brand new and, you know, it's still stiff. So there's my grapefruit, and I've got my aqua painter, and there's water in the aqua painter, but I'm not squeezing it because I used a water-soluble ink with the Early Espresso. So this Early Espresso Classic ink, it's water-soluble, so I don't want to use a whole lot of water, so I'm not squeezing it all, and I'm taking some of the excess water that might be in the tip off with my hand because I don't want to take a chance when I pick up some of this ink that when I come down to my card, I'm going to make my espresso bleed. I don't want to do that. So I'm just gently picking up some of this orange, and look at how much it makes the center of these flowers pop. And I love those daffodils that have the yellow petals and the orange cone on the inside. I think those are so pretty. So I'm bringing the flowers I wanted for my garden into my crafting. All right, so now I have this. I'm stained my aqua painter, cleaned it off on my scrap paper. I can cap it and forget it. I can close this, okay? I got that closed, and the only last thing to do is to color my hang in there. And on my sample that I can show you now, I colored it with the yellow. I colored it with the So Saffron because it's subtle enough. I don't want to get rid of my lines. Oh, it's pouring rain. You probably can't hear that. We're having a sun shower. The rain is hitting my windows in the craft room. All right, so I'm going lightly as I can, and I probably could use the fine tip on this, but I wouldn't be able to see it any better than I can the brush tip, so I may as well do that. And I colored with the saffron, so saffron into the hang in there. And then, just because I want to add a little something something, I have this new triple punch. This is going to be available in our January catalog. Usually I don't show products before they're available for you to purchase, but I wanted to add a little something. Now on this one, I had rounded the corners because it has a corner rounder, and then I punched, but I'm one of those people that I don't like rounded corners on top of blunt corners. So in my mind, I would have to round the designer series paper and round the card. So I'm not going to do that right now, because if I end up hating it, I'll be stuck with it and I won't be able to undo it. So I'm going to do the straight edges, but I am going to do this little peekaboo window. And if we hate it, well, guess what? We're stuck with it. So see how that punched that out? Isn't that the cutest? Anita, my outline is actually with Early Espresso, the classic ink. So when I did my light coloring with the aqua painter on just the Grapefruit Grove, I just had to do it very carefully and with as dry of a brush as I could pick up, because I did not use I didn't use an archival ink. I wanted to use a brown because I didn't want that stark contrast with the black. Okay. So we're gonna get our bits out of my way. All right, so let's put this down. So because I cut this out with the dragonflies, I don't want to have, I'm not going to pop up the designer series paper, because then you could see through, you have the potential of seeing through and seeing that the dragonflies have been cut out of there. All right, so I'm going to take this designer series paper and I'm going to adhere it directly to my card base, because that's going to hide the fact that I did all that chopping out of the middle. But again, this paper is way too pretty to just hide under a card, so why not cut out the middle? So I'm going to use my Tombow glue, because that's going to give me a chance to slide this into position. Okay. And then when you open this up, you're not going to be able to see through the, this is a, oh, I'm sorry, I have to go back. This is a mint macaron card base that I've chosen. So you're not going to be able to see through the back of it and see that you cut the dragonflies out of there. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this panel up, but I'm going to actually pop it up, because I don't think, I mean, maybe they will, but I don't, well, maybe you would. If I mailed it to you, you might. But I think your general card recipient is not going to be peeking underneath to check out how you made the card, right? I mean, maybe. I don't think, even my mother is one of those people that when I first started making cards, I would make her cards and she would tell me, there's a spot of ink here, because I'd catch an edge or create like a halo, or this isn't straight. Did you know that? I mean, she would point out every single tiny little flaw in my cards. It was really kind of funny, because now I know where I get it from. And I'd just be like, Mom, I tried to make your card. Let it go. But now I know where I get my anal behavior from. So now I have my dimensionals. And I'm going to pop this up on top. So you can kind of see it there. Nope, I got a little gooby on there. And there's our card. So now I can finish the inside. Now to finish the inside, I would just take a very vanilla panel and stamp a basket and do some more coloring. I'm just not sure what I'm going to use this card for. My friend that I was feeling so deeply for today, she's actually heading out of town. So I might mail her a card for when she gets back. But who knows? Someone else may need to pick me up. So that's what I would do. If you're going to finish the inside and you're not going to sit and watch me color the inside of a card, that's ridiculous. But what I would do is I would put a very vanilla panel on the inside with another basket hanging there and then just write my personal note. So what do you think? I think it came out pretty cute. And you can't, even if my mother, who I know isn't watching because she's on Facebook, but she doesn't come on Facebook. She booted up her computer for the first time in 4 months yesterday. So even if my mother were to peek under this panel, you cannot tell that those dragonflies were cut out of there. So there's our card. I got out of my funk. I got my color therapy. I showed you my color therapy. I hope you enjoyed the card. And if you want to order the supplies for making this card, they're all available in my online store. You can earn your 4-card tutorial in your card kit using this month's Live at 5 hostess code. You can join my club for even more ideas because my club gets exclusive card tutorials mailed to them every month. And this month's hostess code is right there if you want to grab a screenshot. And the Share What You Love bundle is what we were using today, along with our stamp set, which is in the Occasions catalog, which is the Hanging Garden stamp set. So thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate your allowing me to get some color therapy in today and for stamping with me. And I will catch you later in the week. So thanks a lot. And I will stamp with you soon. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a shout. Have a good evening. Bye.